Hey there, Bear Club! At the Mama Bear Initiative, we explore how to protect ourselves so we can protect our cubs, the people who depend on us. Join us and get the confidence you need to stay safe, make good choices, and protect yourself and those you care about. Let's go.
Hello, and welcome back to the Mama Bear Initiative podcast. I'm Stephanie Dunham.
I'm Evelyn Mason.
I'm Michelle Manu.
We are picking up where we left off with Michelle Manu, who agreed to meet with us and talk with us about women in combat. So we were last time talking a bit about the history and women's attitudes about combat, how they've changed over time.
Yeah.
How women, well, we didn't actually get to how do women tend to view combat and combat training now. Did we actually talk about that? Did we do that one? Okay.
Yeah, we did.
All right. So
yeah.
So I think this question's really gonna spark you, which is why
great.
why do you believe women need to train in combat arts? Like,
oh my gosh.
I mean, we kind of talked about it a little bit.
No, it's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great question. I mean, one, let's just take the Hawaiian women, for example. When the lua was banned from public display, it's been also concealed in the hula, and it's been kept from people, men included, of the culture. So you've got only a select group that are learning back home, and women and same sex and children and elderly have been kept out of that group that get to learn. There have been a couple women here and there, but they no longer are in the community. They received a title or training. And again, this is perishable training. We're going to, it doesn't matter if it's Lua or self-defense or sport or it's like our fitness level. It is perishable. We must keep up with it. If we don't train in it, we'll forget it.
It's true.
So I think there's the deeper aspects of like identity. When it is part of your culture, it has been erased. You weren't taught, and as you get reintroduced to it, you start to realize it's erasing some of that generational trauma of what you heard about your people. And I was raised being told, that heathens and savages and fighting for no reason. It wasn't like that at all. So when I connect with that energy deeply and personally in my body as I move in these movements, that's the truth, and it's really helpful. Beyond that, when there's a cultural aspect to it, one, just to feel more confident, and like we don't need to earn our space through performance and how we look and what we do for others, performance aspect, not just vocationally, but familial and also societal. This training to learn how to protect ourselves and others gives us a sense of duty, and it really holds us accountable. And that's what we are. Protectors are accountable. They don't lie to themselves. They don't lie about situations. They don't downplay situations either. We're sitting in our truth when we train as protectors, and we're alive and we're awake and we're aware. And is there any other way for us to live as women? We can no longer afford to wait on men. And I, on this, I'm not necessarily pro women all the time, because we do have those of us that would rather not be accountable, that would rather have a man take care of us, would rather, and that's fine. Men can take care of us, but this in the mutual way where we don't feel less than or like a little Cupid doll and we're not capable. But, for those of us that are self-sufficient, I wouldn't even say independent, self-sufficient, we can be, with entrenched with someone else in a relationship for however long. But really, ultimately, our responsibility is to protect ourselves and those we love and those we care for. And even if it's just a physical item, our car, or, carjacking, a diamond we're wearing that we, whatever it may be.
Right. That's true.
This is our responsibility. And I don't know, it's fallen into the strong man that we're damsels, and we can't, we don't, we just can't engage, and to call for the bigger, stronger. But guess what? I tend to believe that we're more vicious than men when we make up our mind.
Agreed.
I actually believe
Yes, agreed.
I believe
that. Think about this one. What if matriarchal societies weren't all rainbows and gummy bears and kumbaya and trading? What if women in ancient times were very impatient with anyone that was threatening the community and actually would assassinate and protect beyond what was needed to ensure the safety of the tribe?
Mm,
Could it be possible? Absolutely could be possible. So I
yeah.
think it's this narrative that we're telling ourselves, that we've been told since birth and before us, and what resided in our mothers. Bless them, love them energetically, because of what they had to go through. They were basically domestic slaves, in my opinion, not able to make decisions about anything. Finances are so important. This is also, for financial protection. We're talking about physical protection, but financial protection, making sure that we have the resources we have to not be in a pseudo slave situation. We don't have to stay in a situation if it's unsafe and unhealthy and traumatizing constantly, or it doesn't need to be any of that. If it merely isn't enriching us, oh my God, what a thought. If it merely isn't an enriching relationship, we should be able to have the finances to leave. So their financial independence, their self-sufficiency wasn't allowed. They couldn't have a bank account. They couldn't own a piece of property. They couldn't have a credit card. Couldn't make certain decisions about their own physical body without a man, father, brother, and our husband saying that they could. And so, how lucky are we to be in this first generation that's coming out of that, to be able to have financial independence and to make up our mind, and to have to feel like we're not incarcerated in certain ways when we move on. There's no excuse for us anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not about, hating men, and, maybe demonizing the women that don't feel the same way we do. When we move powerfully like this for ourselves, we have no other option but to change the world around us. And so we don't need to scream, ban the bra, and things like this. If we just move powerfully in that way, we change things individually and then collectively as a whole, energetically. And so, that's my long answer on that one.
Hey, I like the long answers. This what you're talking about reminds me of something I saw in a TV show earlier this year. It was the newest version of Shogun. I read the book in high school. It's what I did while I rode the bus 8 times a day. I read that book. I didn't know what I was reading at that time. I was only like 17 years old, but it made an impression on me. Mariko, the main female character. Michelle went away.
I got a phone call. It should have been off. I'm good.
Okay.
She's here.
I got a heads up, Michelle. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so Mariko is the main female character, and she is a noble woman, and married to this awful man, and becomes the confidant / translator of this one specific daimyo, this one specific lord. And she feels very strongly about many things. Women in that, it seems like women in that era, in that time, kind of had to guide things from the shadows. So they, there was some manipulation going on and whatever, but there was a couple of scenes in the show, and this show is pretty graphic, by the way. If you watch it, just know it's violent, physically graphic, and there's sexual stuff in it. It's pretty graphic. There's a couple of scenes where Mariko takes her weapon, which is the naginata, which is the staff with the single-edged blade on the end, which was typical women's weapons in that era. And they're trying to leave the castle. So they're sneaking out her lord. He's dressed as a woman. He's in this thing being carried. They're trying to sneak him out. the
Hmm.
opposing lord's men show up and she fights them off. She
Wow.
takes her naginata
Oh,
and
love
she's
it.
just going at it and I'm like, like I was, and there's like one other scene where she's fighting some bad guys in the woods or something. But it was out of a sense of duty, responsibility, protection, for her ideals, her
Yeah.
beliefs, her lord, her family. There's just all sorts of reasons why this specific character was doing what she was doing, and it was kind of inspiring to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Sounds like
great.
it. Yeah. If it wasn't for the graphic violence, I'd probably watch the
Yeah.
show.
it is pretty graphic.
Oh, I love that. But, if you think that you can survive violence without violence, you're already dead.
True.
So remember that.
True.
We have to think about
Mm.
what blood
Hmm.
feels like too. It's going to be warm. It's going to be sticky. Adrenaline's going to be pumping. You're not going to know if it's your blood, his blood, their blood. You just have to resolve that you need to get to a place that's safe. And so never give up. And
Yeah.
there's going to be things that you're going to have to
Yeah.
reconcile with that we can't train for. And those are the things.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest thing to convince women of, that it's okay to be violent when
Mm-hmm.
needed, because they, like we were taught to be demure, we taught to be quiet, like you said, and then boys are allowed to be rambunctious and loud and all
Yeah.
of that, and women are taught not to, and then they come into a self-defense class or a martial art and they're like, oh, I have to be violent now.
Right.
It's very terrifying for them. They don't get it. I mean, I was traumatized as a kid, so it's different for me, but I still had the same issue. Like, I have to be violent. I didn't want to hit people for the longest time, and I had to get through that and
Yes.
work through that feeling to understand it's actually okay to be violent to save your life or someone else's if you have
Mm-hmm.
to.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know in my situation, I used to be one of those women who basically just wanted the man to take care
Hmm.
of her. I mean, I saw that in my
Hmm.
mom, my parents. There were parts of that that I didn't like, but I liked that he brought in the income. She did her thing at home, and I kind of liked that. So I ended up in a marriage that ended up being he was very controlling, he was very manipulative, and initially I was under his protection, and very financially dependent on him. We have 4 kids together. But after a while I just couldn't stay there. I couldn't take it anymore. And I still
Yeah.
remember the first time I actually went to Steph's, one of her tests, and I saw her doing that martial art. And then it's like something rose up in me, like, I want to do that. And, through a series of fortunate events, was able to find my voice and stood up to, who the man who is now my ex-husband. But, there's been a lot of recovery. But being able to find my voice, stand up for myself, and then physically, there are things we do in our martial art where it's, that violence under control. I found it very healing and very empowering after years of being, under someone else's control.
That's a great way to put it. Violence under control. I really like
Well,
that.
yeah. I mean, because of various laws and other things, we have to develop a sense of how much force can I use against
Hmm.
someone,
Right.
which means that we have to
Right.
train that way. We have to know what our limits are, but we
Yeah.
also know how far we can take it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Evelyn. I think that I have a similar situation. Um, so yeah, fought that ended, well, it's 20 years ago, literally. So I think that we fell into that societal program that's running where it's most common. That's, we were told a white picket fence and you do this and everything works out great and it just doesn't. And when it falls apart, you're left to
Mhm.
wonder like, why? What happened? Did I do something? Well, I was gonna wonder if I did it, it was we internalize as
Hmm.
women.
Yeah.
Um, there's also something that once you do use your training, once you are forced to engage and you choose to engage, there is something that I would love to study in the future, and I'm not even sure how to do this. But when you use it, there will be about 2 hours afterwards where you will be overwhelmed with a racing mind and a palpitating heart, um, and surging adrenaline still after. Wondering,
Hmm.
should you have engaged? Did you engage at the right time? Did
Hmm.
you engage with too much violence? Did you engage with too much force? At what
Mm.
point should you?
Yeah.
And it is this constant
Hmm.
and there's shortness of breath, and you start to come down. But there's got to be some other chemical that floods a woman's system after they're forced to
Hmm.
use what they know. And this is what I've found twice with myself and with other women that I've talked with. So there's also the post situation that
Hmm.
we have to deal with. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
don't be surprised if that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. So, do you want to take the next
Good
question,
point.
Evelyn?
Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. What are some obstacles you've encountered while training women?
Oh gosh, well, we've touched on a lot of them in our discussion already, but not wanting to
Yeah.
coming involuntarily, maybe with a sister or best friend, um,
Hmm.
not wanting to be there, but they've already sustained a very bad situation, so they know they need to be there, but they still haven't committed. Not believing that they need to be there, nor that it's going to help. And then
Hmm.
physicality.
Yeah.
Physicality is very difficult. We were talking about body mechanics a little bit earlier. If they don't
Yeah.
know their body, if they and this happens with a lot of sexual abuse or physical abuse where we
Hmm.
disassociate with our body. We end up thinking that
Hmm.
it's the problem. It's not working properly. We are degrading it and not integrating with it. And so they don't want to have to feel the body. There's others that
Sure.
cut and hurt
Yeah.
themselves to feel. So we've got all these different
Mm.
ways that we're disassociating and
Yeah.
associating
Hmm.
for survival, really. And then there's those that just there's those that come in that think that I've already been to 12 self-defense classes, and let me help you, I will teach this, and well, you're doing that wrong. And it's like, oh my gosh. And then you've got
Oh
the
my
women that
gosh, yes.
yeah, I touch on certain things, and then you see the rocking start, and you start to see the racing eyes, you start to see folk, then you
Hmm.
see the welling, and then they need to take a moment. And it's very important not to be like, oh, are you
Yeah.
okay, stop the whole class, and then boom, all the spotlight is on her. It's, getting
Hmm.
everyone
Right.
moving, knowing, being aware of everyone in the room, what they're struggling,
Right.
those that are struggling a little bit more than others, to be sensitive to that. And then, once everyone gets moving, those that can, going to those and quietly checking in and saying, you can remove yourself, but I need you to come back. You can stay right here, sit in
Yeah.
place, go to the bathroom, come back, get a drink of water, reset your nervous system. But please just come back. Let's work through this. Now's the
Hmm.
time to work through it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's a lot of challenges. I mean, so many, probably some we deal with when we are teaching this that I don't even consciously register. It is such a volatile like environment of trying to keep it a safe space and push them enough
Hmm.
so that they
Yeah.
can commit and also learn and
Yeah.
not hurt themselves, because beginners
Right.
are
Right.
are the most dangerous. They are the most dangerous out of everyone because they have no
Yeah.
Yeah.
control, they have no idea, they have no direction. They're just going to nail you, and you need we as
Hmm.
teachers, we more than anyone need our bodies because we do this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
When I've got a crowbar and I'm coming overhead to hit somebody and they lay it on, they crank it, and I'm on the mini verge of tearing everything. We've got to try to help with our defense as well. But I've done that, how many hundreds of times, and it's like, how many more times can I do that? So some things I have to,
Mm,
try to slow. Even when you say slow, they don't understand slow.
Yeah.
And you're not ready for it. You're expecting slow so you can get the lines in which
right.
you're moving. Yeah, no, I was knocked out at UCLA because I said slow and it didn't happen. And I lost consciousness for a little bit. And
Mm,
I wasn't sure if I was
goodness.
driving an hour and a half home with a concussion. So yeah,
Goodness.
Wow.
lots, Evelyn, lots to encounter.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I've seen all the things you've described as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
I've also seen where I can get them so far in a technique before they're like, I'm not comfortable with this and I don't want to do it, but they won't actually say that. They'll just start hesitating in a way
Yeah.
You can feel it.
that makes you
Yeah.
feel like, okay, what's
Yep.
up? you know, um,
Yeah.
or um, I don't know. There was a couple people that called me. A mother called me because her daughter had experienced, I think it was a sexual assault, and she wanted her daughter to come, but her daughter didn't want to do it. And she like called me a couple times and asked me like tons of questions about it. But I've encountered this thing where when people who've been traumatized in some way will say, no, it's good. I'm good. I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I don't need anything
Mm-hmm.
else. I'm over it, which we all know isn't true. First of all, that
Yeah.
sort of thing does not leave your
Right.
body
It's
immediately.
no.
It's something you have to like work
Wherever
to do.
sometimes.
Yeah. In
Hmm.
fact, movement and becoming like physically aware of yourself is actually healing through somatic sensing, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know. I find it hard to convince people of that kind of truth, that that's actually a real thing
Yeah.
that they can experience. Is that something you've encountered before, Michelle?
Hugely. They want the magic pill and they want the talk therapy. They want what we're told helps us get over this. So movement is in fact medicine. It will rewrite our energy within 5 to 7 minutes based on the movement that you've engaged in. But it's also has to be matched with intention.
Right.
When you begin, we begin to start moving, what do you want to feel? What do you want to move out of your body? Acknowledge these things and then work. And as you move, it moves. It's such a beautiful process of connecting with yourself and what we're feeling, what our body and our mind, our fascia usually is alerting us to that needs to be handled and needs to be dumped or transmuted because it will end up in its current vibration in our body in which we're holding will be harmful to us.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, movement's
yeah.
amazing.
Yes.
I've also seen the opposite where a woman, and this hasn't happened nearly as often, but it seems like they will throw themselves into the training, but they're actually freaked out by it. And I'm not sure if it's because they want to look good to the instructor or what the situation is, but I've seen that as well. Like, and you can feel the fear and the insincerity, but like they'll like say, "Oh no, I'm fine," then they'll just keep going, but then they don't come back.
Yeah.
You're like, "Well, what
Yeah.
happened?" They seem like they were
Yeah.
into it, but they didn't come
They
back.
just want to get through it. They're not really there. And these are the women we really can't
Yeah,
help. We all need to decide. It goes back to that powerful decision for ourselves. And all we can do is just guide. And I think it really helps us too, because we really want you
Right.
go into it, especially when you've been changed and you're starting to get into teaching. You're like, oh my gosh, amazing, amazing. Oh, you have to, you have
Yes.
to, you have to. And they're like, oh, And so,
yeah,
they're just not, they want to
yeah,
stay lower on the path for a little bit. We got to just say, okay,
yeah,
you take a
Yeah.
break on that rock for a little bit when you're ready. We're
Right.
here. Let's do this. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, it
And
happens.
I appreciate that attitude of it's okay to be where you are as long as you're willing to stay with
Yeah,
it. You don't
yeah,
have to go from zero
no,
to 100. It's okay to try it. You feel uncomfortable, but come back to it. Because I found, watching the people who have stayed with it, whether it's martial art or, and self defense or whatever it is, if they can get past a certain point, there's no guarantee, of course, but it's gained so much more,
So
if they
true.
can just
Mm-hmm.
and be where they are. I know the first martial art that I studied, they expected us to like I remember there was the part right at the beginning where he was like, "Okay, now you're going to fall." And they didn't really teach us how to fall very well, and I hurt myself, and there was no like bridge onto, where he was wanting to take us. And so I didn't want to come back, but I still wanted to do that. And this was years before, I saw Steph Test and, was able to do that
Mm-hmm.
martial art. But, being able to meet people where they are, as long as they're willing, to
Yeah.
engage.
Well, I'd like to talk about that. So I think the more you set at a certain level, you really start to get something out of it. And you do. Well, the body obviously is being trained in this vibration and it's getting used to it. And so I call that fluency. You start to gain a fluency in what you're doing, and it's not as difficult anymore to put the words together,
Mhm.
which brings me to the way men teach. And the way men learn and the way women teach and the way women learn. And it's going
Yeah.
into the process, right? The fluency is the process. So you don't become fluent in
Mm-hmm.
French overnight. And so
True.
same with these techniques and learning the fluency of your own body and how you move, your preferences. And so I think, men learn, they jump onto the floor, ring, wherever, they start moving, and then they start to believe, and then their fitness, like, kicks off. Whereas women actually have to believe,
Mhm.
they have to get the fitness, and then they do the
Yeah.
techniques. So it's completely
Mm-hmm.
ass backwards. So when we have male teachers, and my teacher was a male, just blah, 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 do this, do this, do this. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
just all over the
Yeah.
place. And you don't know one move to the next move to, you know what I mean? And it's like, so you're trying to
Mhm.
translate it into woman speak, versus, instead of, and you see all
Yes.
like your male counterparts just like, oh yeah, okay, man, boom, 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 boom. And you're like, well, wait a minute, time out.
Hold up.
Let
Hold
me
Yeah.
just
up.
think about this.
Right.
Yeah, I want to get it so I get it right. I don't have the opportunity to not get it right. I
Right.
don't. Out on the street,
Yeah.
I've got to do this 1,000 times so I am fluent in my fluency of my language, so that I don't have to think when that happens. So when I do get startled, I
Mm.
immediately respond. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's so good. Great points.
Yeah. Do we want
Yeah.
to,
I like that idea of
yeah,
fluency.
do we want to move to the last two questions? Because we're getting close to an hour.
Sure.
Do you want to take
Yeah.
the next
Yeah.
to last
Yeah.
one, Evelyn?
Sure. So, what can we do to convince women that they should take combat training?
Oh, Evelyn, I hate to say it, but at this point of our society, it must be gimmicky, because women aren't going to sign up for something
Mm,
that's going to take any time away from anything that they feel is important.
Yeah.
And
True.
Yes.
commitment to
That is very true.
oneself. Yeah. Well, that they would
mm,
rather be we're taught this, and I mean, it's in our DNA as well, but I think the codependent aspect of our society has us earning our worth and value by serving others 24/7,
Mm-hmm.
instead of setting
mhm,
time aside for ourselves. And this is time aside for ourselves,
Right.
what ultimately
Yeah.
benefits everyone. But we almost have to become, to make it cool. You know what I mean? Like, cool, bam, bam, protector. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
yeah.
Because they're not
Yeah.
going to sign up
Yeah.
for the accountable,
Mhm,
diligent, weekly type of male taught curriculum anymore. It was fascinating. I
Mm.
know it was probably the shift right before COVID. I was hearing that everyone on the East Coast didn't was really not interested in a woman self-defense instructor. That really wasn't. If it
mm,
was a man teaching, women felt more confident in the training that they were receiving.
Hmm.
mm.
Whereas it's shifted on the West
Interesting.
Coast, that women everywhere, like, oh, I'm certified women self-defense instructor. And it's like they were everywhere,
Interesting.
And then and then I kept
Yeah.
getting asked, no, we
Huh.
really want a woman. Would you please consider? And I was like, of course I'll consider. And so you
Right.
saw opposite ends, like things happening on our coasts. And so now I don't really know what's happening on the East Coast. I haven't heard. But West Coast, again, still now preferred is a woman instructor,
Hmm.
unless it's
Mm.
some famous guy, then you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, the three main big ones are karate, taekwondo, and BJJ. And those
Yep.
Yeah.
particular ones seem to have a higher percentage of women involved and women instructors.
Yes.
So it's possible that it's shifting more towards more women instructors for self-defense at this point. BJJ especially seems to attract a lot of women, because I feel like
Yeah,
they come
that's
at it
true.
in an empowering way that gives women a sense of, like, I could like manage this.
Yeah.
There's a whole video, maybe I'll send it to you, a whole video of a woman BJJ practitioner outsmarting, out grappling a man, and his ego couldn't take it. He made every
Nothing new
excuse in the
there.
book for why he couldn't but she was just good. She had good technique, she had
Yeah.
good management skills, she had a goal, and
Intention.
she went about it and got it done. So,
Yeah.
Well, he's also programmed as well to think that he shouldn't be losing to a girl.
well, there,
And so, and that's also shameful for him
yeah,
in the programming of what men are
Yeah,
told they need to
it's true.
be.
right.
So they're hurting, he's hurting. I have sympathy, but not very little. I mean, very much.
They both,
The men need to learn too by disregarding women
Yeah.
and the gender, not the sex, but the gender they've been told we are and how we operate in our society. They need to unlearn that as
Yeah.
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's true. I think there's a lot of sport aspect to those three arts, martial arts, and BJJ. I find because they deal with a lot of compromised situations. They're not always standing. Women feel a bit more vulnerable on the ground, but there's so many ways where
Hmm.
we can use that to our advantage, and we should be able to do what we do standing on the ground. So that's also something to work
Right.
into a regular workout.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
True.
Yeah.
So Rochelle, did you want to do the last question for our guest?
Sure. What would you like to tell our audience about this topic?
Oh my goodness, Rochelle.
You can,
Another
you can
big
say
question,
whatever you
Michelle.
I
want.
know.
Please, I swear.
And
It's
it-
your
Oh,
minute.
that's, well, there's so much to say here, but I think honestly, it all comes back to us, ourselves, how we're connecting with
Yeah.
ourselves, because shit can go on all around us constantly. Things can fall apart, and they do regularly. And it's all about our perception and how we respond to it if we choose to
Mm.
powerfully not respond at all. We do have that option too, to honor the stimulus, to sit in it. There's this
Mm.
stimulus that occurs, you're triggered, you sit in that, and then you get to choose your response, if at all. And whether it's everyday situations or for self-talk that we hear, do we need to really listen to that anymore? Is it really helpful to being physically attacked? It is truly up to us. We own that. It's our power. It's our time.
Yeah.
We don't need to fight for women's rights because we contain that all within ourselves and how we powerfully move through the world. I personally will not stop until I have no breath left in me. I feel that we need to remember who we are, where we came from, and all of these distractions and very unfair situations that we have endured and survived are really here for us and not against us. They are to produce who we are today. And I want to continue to embrace those situations to gain more
Mm.
understanding. And if I can't, to find completion, not closure, but completion with those experiences that have led me here. And I'll no longer wish away any part of it because otherwise I'll be erasing part of who I am now. So it's
Yeah.
not just about self-defense. It's about protecting this life we've been given and this we only have one experience, and I want it to be worth something. I want to be fulfilled. I have the right to move throughout this world um, without interference, um, and
Mm.
without anyone touching me that
Mm.
doesn't have authorization to touch me. So I would like to
Yeah.
see all women rise, and including those, if you want to be accountable to a man or a woman, same sex, whatever, in a relationship and not have that responsibility, that's fine too. I'm trying to allow everyone to be where they are so that I don't have anyone in my face saying, "Why are you living the way that you're living? You can't do that." And I think we all just need to
Yeah.
lighten up a
Right.
bit and just let people live. And in that, being authentic and true to ourselves. And that's really what I would
Yeah.
love to say to everyone.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you, Kumu. I
Me too.
appreciate your perspective and the sorts of things you have to say. I hope that whoever watches this and hears, what we've talked about will consider their own protection, will consider their own safety,
Yeah.
and will consider their own empowerment. And not everybody has to be a black belt in everything. You can just seek out some training to defend yourself. You don't have to commit to a lifelong martial art. You can just find some ways to defend yourself, simple ways. Yes, I started out making like what I was training people to do in self-defense so complicated, but over time it just became simpler and simpler because it's really simple. It's not actually that hard. You just have to know a few really important key things to do what you need to do. So,
Correct.
True.
Agree.
Yep.
100%.
anything,
Just kidding.
anything you guys want to say, Rochelle or Evelyn, about time with Michelle?
Oh, we just really appreciate you coming on and
right.
letting us interview you. It's been a treat.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful conversation.
Learned a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, Evelyn.
Really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Oh, likewise. Very much.
So, so if you are listening to this and you got something out of it, please share with your friends, your family, with the universe, whatever, your dog, your cat,
Universe.
Share it.
gerbil. I don't care.
Your gerbil.
I don't know. Maybe some gerbils need to learn some self-protection. Who knows?
That's funny.
Yeah,
Share it with your attacker.
that's right.
Share it with your attacker. Love. Give the love.
Yes, we are on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, hopefully sometime soon, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. You can find us all there.
Yes.
And again, we post reels, I guess like 5 to 6 days a week, something like that. On TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, where we're talking about all sorts of things related to self-protection. Because we're trying to shift the dial a little bit in the other direction. Start thinking about things. Yeah. So again, this is only our second video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Give us some feedback. Tell us what you think. Yep.
Yes, please
All
do.
right. So I am Stephanie Dunham.
I'm Evelyn Mason.
I'm
Thank
Michelle
you for joining
Knapp.
us. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye, Michelle.
Bye,
Thank you so
Michelle.
much. Mwah, mwah.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks so much for joining us as we discussed such an important topic. We hope you got some food for thought and encouragement to keep going and keep growing. See you later, Bear Club.